What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back with the title. Today we're going over every top free agent left on the market. To be honest, it's kind of a thinning market, let's be honest. In terms of unrestricted free agents, restricted free agency, there's a few good players left. But when it comes to unrestricted free agency, it's kind of just a loose pile of sticks. And if you can somehow find something good in that, hey man, good for you. It's either you're getting an old player or you're going to try and somehow land a restricted free agent. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you enjoy. We can go over the restricted free agents now, the RFAs. First of all, we will start with Josh Giddey, formerly of the Chicago Bulls. Probably will be a Chicago Bull next season. Last year, Giddey had a kind of a career renaissance, a career best year. He averaged 14.5 points per game with 8 rebounds, 7 assists. He shot 38% from 3, which is a career high. A career best three-point shooting season was much needed because if you watch the playoffs when he was with the Thunder 2 years back, he couldn't really shoot, and it was costing them games. His inability to make jump shots hurt them from time to time. It's nice to see that he finally was able to take that step up in jump shooting. However, there are flaws in Josh Giddey's game. He's a plus playmaker, he's a plus rebounder. However, he's still a very net negative defender. Doesn't really stay in front of his man very well. It doesn't help he's very unathletic. He's not athletic at all. He's in the 33rd percentile for rim finishing. Again, I put that on his lack of athleticism. You may see guys like Luka dominate and not have the athleticism, but he still has the deceleration and the slow step. Josh Giddey just doesn't really have the handle with the ball that a Luka Doncic does to be as effective as a slower guard. He can still create, and he makes magic in transition. He's a fun transition player if your team plays up-paced and fast. Josh Giddey is a guy that can really produce for you, but like I said, he struggles defensively. I think he would still struggle to shoot in like a limited role. He was the primary ball handler with the Bulls last season. If you reduce his role, I don't know how his three-point shooting would be if it was just off catch and shoot rather than self-creation. And he's still a limited rim finisher. Basically 15, 7 assists, 8 rebounds is a good-ass stat line, man. I don't think anyone would ever argue that. However, there are still flaws in Josh Giddey's game. It is kind of nice to see that the Bulls may bring him back and they aren't bidding against themselves. That's been the Bulls' issue for the last few years, is that they're paying guys that nobody else is willing to pay them. Nobody was going to give Patrick Williams, what is it, $15 million a year or whatever? And I promise you nobody was hunting for that. So don't outbid yourself. Don't overpay for Josh Giddey just because you finally found maybe some talent to help long term. All right, I hope the Bulls re-sign him because he really did light a spark in that team, especially in the back half of last year before they lost the play-in game against Miami. But Giddey was a big reason why they picked up so much steam in the back half. The other quote-unquote big fish in the restricted free agency market is Jonathan Kuminga, the cum bucket, whatever you want to call him. This one's a little bit weird. He's not really like Josh Giddey. Kuminga's entire game is buckets. He can get buckets. You saw that in the playoffs last year. He had an 18-point game, a 30-point game, a 23-point game, and a 26-point game, all against Minnesota in the second round. They did lose that series, but Kuminga had some really high highs for a guy who really didn't play much at all in the first round. I don't even know if he played in the second round until Curry went down and they needed the scoring. His ability to impact the game outside of just put ball in hoop is very questionable and very limited. He only played 47 games last year. His efficiency was, to be frank, god-awful. He averaged 15.5 points per game, 45 from the field, 30 from the three-point line, and 67 from the free throw line. He took a career-high 3.2 threes per game, and he shot pretty bad efficiency at 30%. I think also the interesting part is his free throw percentage being in the 60s. You can't do that if your entire premise of your game is athleticism and getting to the rim. He's an elite rim finisher. He shot 72% at the rim last season, which is the 87th percentile. That's elite rim finishing. But if you only shoot 67% from the free throw line, the teams are okay with fouling you. You're helping them, especially in the playoffs. We saw how bad missed free throws can hurt teams in the playoffs. We see it every single year. So it needs to be better from the free throw line, maybe figure out that three-point jumper. This is another guy that I hope doesn't get overpaid, because if he gets overpaid, you know what comes with being an overpaid player. Being hated a lot. In terms of mid-range shooting and three-point shooting, he was in the 25th percentile for both, which again, not good. But like I said, he had a really good playoffs against Minnesota, 30-point game, 26-point game. That's very respectable numbers when Curry was down and they really needed a spark and a punch off that bench for scoring. He helped out a little bit. The buckets are a guarantee for Jonathan Kuminga. You know he's going to be able to get to that rim, and you know he's going to be an elite rim finisher. He's done it for a few years now. The issue is outside of that, what can he bring to the table? His defense has been iffy at best, and that's a big reason why he wasn't getting playing time in the playoffs, because he's not a complete defender. He's not a really positive defender. He has the athleticism and the tools, the basketball IQ side. Maybe it's just instincts. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just he's not locked in on that side of the ball. But either way, he needs to figure out his defense and his three-point shooting. And I think he can become a very complete offensive player. It's just in a weird spot right now because he wasn't great from three, wasn't great from the free throw. He wasn't a great defender, but his trade value is still there, I guess. Teams are still looking to trade for him in that sign and trade. In that same series against Minnesota, the guy had 6 assists total. All right. That's kind of insane when you're averaging more field goal makes per game than assists per game on the usage that he was being, given the ball at. Make no mistake, I do like Jonathan Kuminga, but it is a little bit harder to gauge a player's value when it's so limited to just scoring. Get comfortable with talking about guys that only score, because up next we have Quentin Grimes, who's another restricted free agent, whose best attribute? Scoring the ball. He's probably the weirdest free agent on the board, in my opinion. Last season, Grimes' season total was 14.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists. He shot 46.5 from the field, 38.5 from 3, and 76 from the free throw line. That's pretty good splits. He's a good player for sure, but this is somebody I would try not to overpay. You don't want to give a big portion of your cap to a guy who is very limited to just a score, really. Pretty incredible story, though, for Quentin Grimes. He was almost out of the league, let's be honest with each other. He had a rough stint with the Knicks where he wasn't shooting efficiently. They let him go, or they traded him to Detroit, I believe, and he wasn't getting burned for the Pistons. Not last year's Pistons that made the playoffs, the year before last year's Pistons that were an embarrassment to the sport. He couldn't get burned there, so it really made me question when Dallas signed him and really gave him a chance to be a backup guard. He was amazing as a backup guard, though, in Dallas. Early season in Dallas, you have Kyrie Irving go down, you have Luka Doncic go down when he was still there, and who steps in? Quentin Grimes, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall. These guys step up to the plate, and they actually gave them good run while Luka was down for a while. Quentin Grimes was particularly impressive to me because he still shot efficiently despite being on a lower usage rate. Yeah, they gave him the ball, but it was a lot of spot up. Kyrie was there for a little bit while he was there, and him and Kyrie in the backcourt also held up relatively well. However, we're talking about just the Dallas side. Let's talk about the other side. For some reason, Nico Harrison and his midseason trade extravaganza, whatever you want to call that, his, manic moment when he just decided to trade half the roster, they dumped Quentin Grimes for Caleb Martin. Again, that's another really, really bad trade in the book of Nico Harrison, in my opinion, but we'll talk about his stint in Philadelphia now because that's where Quentin Grimes was sent. Quentin Grimes was amazing in Philadelphia, full disclosure. 22 points per game, 47 from the field, 37 from the three-point line, 75% from the free throw line. Incredible splits, 22 points per game. That's an explosion. A crazy explosive back half for Quentin Grimes. I think Grimes is a very good player and a guy who will be getting paid a healthy amount of money, probably not by the 76ers, even though I believe they do have his bird rights. I still don't think they're going to sign him. They're dedicated to Paul George, Maxey, Embiid. They're going to have to pay McCain eventually. They have a bunch of guys that are on payroll, Kelly Oubre. So I don't know if he's going to go back to Philly, but I think he's going to be a fun 6 man of the year type contestant, He's kind of like a little bit bigger Peyton Pritchard. He holds up a little bit better defensively, too, because he does have quick hands. He can jump passing lanes. I'm not saying he's a good defender. He's really not a good defender. However, he is a very fun player, a fun scorer who relies on a lot of jump shooting, takes a ton of threes. He's kind of a fun watch when he's on. He had like a 40-point game with Philly. It was incredible. Not sure how much of a feature player he is, how much of a starting guard he is. I don't think this is a team that like Charlotte, if Charlotte hit up Quentin Grimes and paid him to be a starting guard, it kind of feel like Terry Rozier, you know what I mean? It kind of feel like they re-signed another Terry Rozier. I think Quentin Grimes is better served as a bench scorer bucket. He can rebound too. I feel like he rebounds better than I remember or I see on the stat sheet. Grimes is a very fun player, but again, just like Kuminga, his ability to impact the game outside of just scoring the ball is kind of limited. But guess what? Scoring the ball still has value, as you'll see in the eventual probably Kuminga sign and trade and whoever gets Quentin Grimes. These players have value. It's just really hard to judge them because, well, the second apron as well. More buckets. Next player, Cam Thomas. He's literally the same player as Quentin Grimes. I'm not going to lie to you. Cam Thomas, another volume shooter, volume scorer. He's going to get shots up. His efficiency isn't great. Neither's his defense, really. Cam Thomas was in the 80th percentile for mid-range scoring. He shot 47% in the mid-range. I think his size hurts him because at the rim, he shot 57%, which is good enough for the 23rd percentile. Still not really a good rim finisher, relies on a lot of jump shots. I'm going to keep this one kind of more short than Quentin Grimes because, like I said, effectively they're the same player. I see them both as like six-man bench scorers. These are Jordan Clarkson type players. These are Jamal Crawford type players, guys who come in off the bench and their job is simply to catch fire and go. My problem with it is that I worry that these guys are going to get overpaid and become relied on to do more than they can. I look at a guy like Malik Monk with the Kings. Malik Monk's best role and the best version of Malik Monk you're going to get is when you're telling him to just go get buckets. Instead, the Kings overworked him last year and needed him to be a playmaker, a rebounder, a defender, a scorer, a slasher, a shooter. You give a guy too many roles and they're not going to strive. You limit a guy's workload and you give a guy a direct role, it'll help a lot. And I think guys like Cam Thomas and Quentin Grimes, maybe even Jonathan Kuminga, would serve best if you limit their skill set and their workload to just go get buckets. We can get into the non-restricted free agents now. I have Malik Beasley. I know this is an awkward situation here. Let's talk about his season last year. Beasley's coming off of an amazing season. He just finished second in Sixth Man of the Year voting. He had his second highest points per game mark since I think it was 2021 in Minnesota when they won like 20 games. He was just getting shots up. Last season, Beasley scored 16.5 points per game. He shot 41.5% from three and was a net positive defensively as well, as opposing teams' points per 100 possessions went down 2.5 with Beasley on the floor compared to off. So he turned out as a net neutral to even net positive defender, and he shot 41.5% from three. With those stats that I just mentioned, if you haven't been paying attention to Malik Beasley news recently, you may be wondering, why isn't he signed yet? It's because Malik's an absolute idiot who decided to potentially, allegedly, gamble on games in the 23-24 season when he was a member of the Milwaukee Bucks, I believe. Bees is currently under federal investigation for gambling. If it comes back that he was the one gambling, he's screwed. I don't know when he'll be able to play again, so no team will be signing him. However, if it comes back clean, similar to what happened to, I believe, Rozier got cleared of his incidents, if it comes back clean, I think a team would really give him a bag, dude. The Pistons were ready to give him $42 million, I believe it was, before this case hit. Of course, it's innocent until proven guilty, so I put him on this list anyways. Obviously, for me, it's like, it's only gambling. There's a lot worse things that I've seen NBA players do off the court that deserve them to be gone. You know what I mean? I know this questions the integrity of the game and it's stuff like that. But there's players who've done a lot worse crimes that are still poking around. Comes back, he gambled, he's screwed. But at the same time, if he didn't gamble, a team's going to give him a bag. I think Malik Beasley is a fantastic player. I just don't know what's going on with this situation, if he's even going to be allowed to play next year. I don't know. How does that work? Do you guys know how that would work? Leave that in the comments. Is a team still allowed to sign Malik Beasley? Do they get cap relief if they sign him today and then like a week from now it comes out he did gamble and he can't play? The hell happens there? I just think the thing that's going to happen is no team is going to touch him until that investigation's over with. But yeah, it's kind of tough for Bees, man. He went from a cash out extension, long-term extension type season to maybe not in the league next year. Wild how that works out. Don't be an idiot, kids. However, I'm not just going to blame Beasley like I have other guys. He messed up for sure if he gambled. He messed up for sure. However, ESPN, y'all are no better. NBA, y'all are no better. You guys can't preach these principles about don't gamble and stuff like that when ESPN has their own freaking sports book. There's about 100 different sports books you can bet on. If you keep pushing it and you keep pushing it and you keep pushing it, you're going to get some, albeit stupid, athletes to actually bet on the sports. Did I mention this video is sponsored by Underdog and DraftKings? No, I'm just kidding. It's not. I'm just throwing jokes out there. Next up in the free agent list, I have Amir Coffey. It's an interesting player. Statistically, this could be considered Coffey's best season in terms of production. But if you look at the on-off numbers, his value wasn't very good. It's a weird situation. You look at his stat sheet, the basketball reference page, you see 10 points per game. He shot 47 from the field, 41 from three, and 89 from the line. That's a pretty damn good season. He has plus size, about 2 rebounds and an assist as well. 6'8", about 210 pounds, so he has some length on him. Pause. He should be able to hold it down defensively in theory, but again, the on-off numbers don't really say that. The Clippers' offense was 6 points per 100 possessions worse with Coffey on the floor. The opposing team's offense was 5.5 points per possession better with Amir Coffey on the floor, which kind of grades out. It's also grades out as a net negative defensively, so he grades out as a net negative offense and defensively. But I don't know. I still think there's something in there. Maybe it was because he absolutely deep fried the Celtics last season when Harden and Kawhi were out, I believe that was. Yeah, it was a game where they let the bench go wild, and Amir Coffey was hitting mid-range jumpers like crazy. A net negative on both sides just feels wrong to me because you look at the top 4 lineups he played with, and they all had above average offensive and defensive numbers. I mean, you look at the points per possession number for the main lineup he was sharing the floor with, which I believe was like Harden, Powell, Derrick Jones Jr., Coffey, and Zoo. It wasn't a bad lineup at all. So I'm very confused how his individual statistics and on-offs come out as negative, but the lineups he played with came out as positives. I have no idea. I'm not here to say Amir Coffey's a star. I'm not here to say Amir Coffey should get $80 million, but what I am here to say is I think Amir Coffey should be in the league. He should be signed, and even though his underlying numbers say he may not be as productive as some believe, I still think there's a positive player in there, even if it is just in a limited role. I really like Amir Coffey. Malcolm Brogdon, the president. When Brogdon's healthy, he can be a pretty decent player. He can score the ball. He's a good three-point shooter. He's a good playmaker as well. He gets to the free throw line pretty good too. But you'll notice I say when he's healthy because over the last 2 seasons, Malcolm Brogdon has played 63 total games. That's not even 1 full season over 2 full seasons. Albeit he was in non-competitive tanking environments in Portland and Washington. Last year's Washington situation, I don't think they wanted to play him just because it was a trade value type thing or a we don't want you to get hurt before you enter free agency type thing. So we missed a bunch of games, but this is Malcolm Brogdon's thing. He's never consistently healthy. He wasn't in Boston really either. Recently, he's drawn some interest around the league, though, from teams like the Lakers. I've even seen the Warriors, with reports with the Warriors looking at Malcolm Brogdon, which I also don't mind because he really is an offensive positive. A career 38.8% three-point shooter. That's almost 39% for his career as a lead guard. That's pretty damn good. He can play make a bit, too. Last season, he averaged 4 assists per game on, I repeat, the worst team I've watched since 2 years ago, Pistons, with last year's Wizards team. It was awful to watch. It was hard to watch. The lineup that Malcolm Brogdon played the most minutes with, which was 145 minutes, had Bub Carrington, Brogdon at the 2, Keontae George at the 3, Corey Kispert at the 4, and Jonas Valanciunas at the 5. There's almost 0 defensive positives on that lineup. Keontae George is a great defender. I don't know what the hell's going on with Corey Kispert at the 4 and Val at the 5. That's putrid. The fact that Brogdon was almost able to grade out as a positive to net neutral player on last year's Wizards team was pretty incredible, considering the competitive environment wasn't there. There was no chance that they were going to win anything or even come close to the playoffs last year. I'm surprised no team reached for him at the deadline, but the issue with Brogdon over the last few years has been his contract number. He was getting paid like $25 million. And that's $25 million nowadays is lead guard money, especially with the second apron. And you're just not getting lead guard production. And he's certainly not a lead guard anymore because of injury troubles. So the money just didn't match up with the production. Again, I still think Malcolm Brogdon is a very good player. And on a respectable contract, teams would love to have him around. A sniper from 3 who can... he's a weird one. He steals buckets, it feels like. He'll sneak in for a layup, or he loves his little reverse layups. He's a fun little player to watch. He can snipe too, and he play makes. I like Malcolm Brogdon. I hope a competitive team signs him. The Warriors makes a lot of sense. They need a backup guard. DeAnthony Melton's coming back, so that's your defensive backup guard that can even run the 2. Be fun to see Brogdon there. Up next, we have Chris Boucher. Boucher's an interesting player as well. He's an offensive rebounding beast. For his career, he's averaged 1.7 offensive rebounds per game, which is pretty damn good. And over the last 2 seasons, he's averaged 1.5 per game. He's not a center. He's not a center at all. He works best when he's playing next to a rim-protecting big man. Like last year, he's playing with Jakob Poeltl, who's a good rim-protecting big man. He's not really a true 5, but he can give you good minutes at the 4. In my opinion, he shot 36% from 3 last year, which isn't the opinion part. The opinion part is I think that's fake, not going to lie to you. In the month of January alone, Chris Boucher shot 53% from 3. I think, again, that boosted his number very high. He didn't shoot over 32% in any other month. So he had 1 month of 50% three-point shooting and no other month over 32%. Before this season, Boucher had 3 straight seasons of shooting less than 33% from 3. So I think his jump shooting is a little bit shoddy and kind of in and out and fake at times. He's kind of like Bol and Naz Reid, except less talented than both maybe. He's in the ballpark of Bol. He might be a little bit better than Bol. He has value as a good offensive rebounder, and I guess he can help out. I mean, he does have some length. He's got long arms. I don't know. I think there's value there. I just don't think he's a 36% three-point shooter true. I don't think he's there. I think he's closer to low 30s than mid 30s. I don't usually do this where I pick a situation or a team that I would like to look at a player, but I think like the Miami Heat would be an interesting shot for Chris Boucher. They didn't do well offensive rebounding last year. I believe they were a bottom 5 offensive rebounding team, and they have 2 centers that Boucher can play next to in Adebayo and Ware. I think it'd be a really fun combo. You have 3 different bigs that are all lengthy, mobile on the perimeter, and honestly kind of skinny. But they can all kind of shoot a little bit here and there. It's a decent little thought, in my opinion. I wouldn't mind seeing him there. He's an Oregon basketball legend in my eyes, and I respect Chris Boucher. Lastly, for the unrestricted free agents, it's GP2. I figure he'll end up returning to the Warriors. I don't know. The last time he left the Warriors, it was absolutely horrible. It was a disaster for him. He had to get 4 surgeries or whatever. He got hurt in Portland and they never diagnosed him. I just assume he'll be back with the Warriors at some point. Last season, though, there was a dip in GP2's three-point shooting. He shot 32.5% from 3. But from 2021 to 2024, all with the Warriors, he shot 38% from 3. So there was a bit of a drop-off there. That's 5.5% drop-off. That's serious. He's still a hound of a defender, really pesky, has very good athleticism as well. He plays the 4, even though he's like 6'2". He's a hell send. He's a switchable defender too. Despite his on-off numbers indicating that he may have taken a step back defensively last season, I believe in every other season before that where he's graded out as a great defender. So maybe it was just one season of kind of not really great production. Plus, he has great athleticism, good size. He's a good size guard. I think he can be productive on a lot of different teams. I feel like he pulls down a lot of rebounds, but I check his rebounding numbers. It's never as high as I expect. That's random, but oh well. All right, last up, what we have left is what I'd describe as the unction. It's everyone else that's just very old. These guys are still productive. They're just ancient. First up, Chris Paul. 1 more year, retirement tour. Someone's got to sign my guy. You guys saw him do that interview with Jamel Hill, maybe? And he talked about, this is probably his swan song, his last season. Somebody's got to sign him, give him a chance. It could be fun to be the Pelicans or the Clippers or something like that, a place where he has history. But I think another situation where he could be productive might also be good for him. I don't know. At this point, I really doubt Chris Paul gets a ring, which kind of makes me sad. But he could still play plus minutes and help mentor young guys. He averaged 7.5 assists last season, along with 9 points and over a steal, because the Cookie Monster always gets over a steal per game. The Spurs' offense was actually 5 points per 100 possessions better with Chris Paul on the floor. And opposing teams' offense was about 4 points per 100 possessions worse with Chris Paul on the floor. So he was a net positive offensively and defensively in terms of plus minus. All of these veteran guys that I'm about to list I think would work well in a limited role. But last season, Chris Paul was not even close to in a limited role. The guy played all 82 games, and he played 28 minutes per game. He's 40. He played 82 games, almost 30 minutes per night. There's just no reason for that. Well, there was last year because Fox was hurt and they were missing their guys. But either way, any situation he goes to, I hope he plays less than 28 minutes per game, 82 games. Next up, we got Al Horford. This one kind of makes me sick to my stomach as a Celtics fan. Al can still ball a little bit, but again, in a reduced role. He cannot play back-to-backs. He had a bit of a dip in three-point shooting last season at 36%. That's his lowest mark since 2021-2022, his return season to Boston. He's a switchable 5-man that can still go out and guard some wings and maybe some guards here and there. He can hold his own on occasion. He did struggle last season in the playoffs. A lot of people will point to that and say, well, you could see his aging. Look at his playoff splits and look at how he defended in the playoffs. I think that's a little bit unfair. The guy's almost 40 years old. He was playing 32 minutes per game in the playoffs. For a man who just turned 39 years of age, that's just way too many minutes. He was forced into playing over 30 minutes per game because Kristaps has whatever the hell he has, HIV, I don't know. I gotta stop with the age jokes. They're insensitive. But a 39-year-old man playing about 32 minutes per game in the playoffs is just devious. Devious. He should not have been playing that many minutes, let's be honest with each other. But he was forced into that situation because Kristaps was sick and couldn't really play. So he kind of got shoved into that role. But I think if you can sign him to be a backup big man, and you don't have to rely on him, you can play him 25 minutes, 20 minutes, he can provide a real spark for your team. I'm not mad he's leaving the Celtics because we're going to be stink next season with just Jaylen Brown and Derek White running the ship. It's going to be kind of bad. But I will be very upset if he ends up a Laker or a Warrior. That would make me sick. I would not like to see that. Please don't do that, Al. I would rather you retire than go play for the Warriors. Please don't do that. And last in the UNC section, we have Russell Westbrook. Who wants to see the Russell Westbrook experience firsthand next season? In my eyes, Russ had a pretty good stint in Denver. He had 13.5 points per game, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 45 from the field, 32 from 3, and 67 from the line. Very similar to Kuminga's splits. That's really weird. Russell Westbrook can be a point guard Jonathan Kuminga. There we go. No, Kuminga ain't passing that ball. 32% from 3 is Russell Westbrook's highest three-point mark in a full season since his MVP campaign in 2016-2017. That's a wild one to think about. It's been almost a decade since he shot 32% from 3. That does include 42% on corner threes. That puts him in the 71st percentile. Of course, playing with Nikola Jokic, you're going to get a bunch of open threes, but getting open corner threes for Russell Westbrook has always been imperative. That's a place where he strives, knocking down his threes. He has for a while now. Even with the Clippers and the Lakers, he was hitting corner three-point shots. Everyone knows Russell Westbrook's history around here, so I don't really have to explain him to you. He ebbs and flows like no player I've ever really seen. He will either steal you a game or lose you a game, and there's almost no middle ground. You saw it last year when he was in Denver in the playoffs. You saw him have absolute banger masterclass games against the Clippers, and I think he even had one against the Thunder. But you also saw games like also against the Thunder where he's, blowing fast break layups, missing mid-range shots horribly, ball hogging at times. The most irritating thing to me is blowing the fast break layups because oftentimes they aren't even open fast break layups. Once he catches the ball and goes into transition, he will run into 6 defenders. There's only 5 allowed on the court, but Russell Westbrook will charge 6 defenders 1-on-6. It does get a little bit frustrating to watch here and there, but Russell Westbrook can still produce. I'm kind of sad that he opted out of his Denver deal. I would have liked to see him pick that up and do just one more run in Denver. I know he might not have liked it as much or whatever, but that was maybe his best role he's had, his best limited role he's had. With the Clippers, he was okay, but last year in Denver, it felt like he was able to do a lot of things that we haven't seen in a while out of him. When Jamal Murray was bad or when Jamal Murray went down, and they moved Russ into the starting lineup for a while, that was probably in December or January, Russ produced and made me very happy to see. Kind of sad that he's not in Denver anymore, but maybe he gets a bag somewhere. I don't know. I think a team like Detroit would be perfect for a Russell Westbrook or a Chris Paul type. They could be veteran mentors toward Ivy and Cunningham. And let's be honest, the Pistons have done almost nothing in free agency, and it's been kind of frustrating to see. They brought in, I forget who, but Karis LeVert, but they don't have any backup guards. That's it for the video. If you enjoyed, you should subscribe. It's simple stuff, man, and it's free. Why not just do it? I'm going to go catch the game. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for joining.